Welcome to National Liberty Alliance's weekly call. Today is Monday, May 12th, 2025. We broadcast live every Monday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are listening over Rumble or YouTube and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, you can go to nationallibertyalliance.org and click on our weekly call for instructions to join us live by phone, app, or browser. If anyone would like to email a question, you can send your questions to questions, it's plural, questions at nationallibertyalliance.org. Please support our business partners. You can find their banners on the right side of our website, of which the proceeds go to support NLA's effort to save our republic. Also, please support NLA by donating $5 a month or more. Click on our donation tab on the top right-hand side of our website. Okay, we're going to pick up with our scripture reading. We're in the Gospel of Luke. Let's see if I can work my way over there. Okay, I believe we're chapter 5. Yep, we're in chapter 5, Gospel of Luke. Okay. Yeah, I had the wrong lyrics up before also. But anyway. Okay, Luke chapter 5, read by Alexander Scorby.
Chapter 5. And it came to pass that as the people pressed upon him to hear the word of God, he stood by the lake of Gennesaret, and saw two ships standing by the lake. But the fishermen were gone out of them, and were washing their nets. And he entered into one of the ships, which was Simon's, and prayed him that he would thrust out a little from the land. And he sat down, and taught the people out of the ship. Now when he had left speaking, he said unto Simon, Launch out into the deep, and let down your nets for a draught. And Simon answering said unto him, Master, we have toiled all the night, and have taken nothing. Nevertheless, at thy word I will let down the net. And when they had this done, they enclosed a great multitude of fishes, and their net brake. And they beckoned unto their partners, which were in the other ship, that they should come and help them. And they came and filled both the ships, so that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. For he was astonished, and all that were with him, at the draught of the fishes which they had taken. And so was also James and John, the sons of Zebedee, which were partners with Simon. And Jesus said unto Simon, Fear not, from henceforth thou shalt catch men. And when they had brought their ships to land, they forsook all, and followed him. And it came to pass, when he was in a certain city, behold, a man full of leprosy, who, seeing Jesus, fell on his face, and besought him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And he put forth his hand, and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately the leprosy departed from him. And he charged him to tell no man, but go and show thyself to the priest, and offer for thy cleansing, according as Moses commanded, for a testimony unto them. But so much the more went there a fame abroad of him, and great multitudes came together to hear, and to be healed by him of their infirmities. And he withdrew himself into the wilderness, and prayed. And it came to pass on a certain day, as he was teaching, that there were Pharisees and doctors of the law sitting by, which were come out of every town of Galilee, and Judea, and Jerusalem, and the power of the Lord was present to heal them. And behold, men brought in a bed a man which was taken with the palsy, and they sought means to bring him in, and to lay him before him. And when they could not find by what way they might bring him in, because of the multitude, they went upon the housetop, and let him down through the tiling with his couch into the midst before Jesus. And when he saw their faith, he said unto him, Man, thy sins are forgiven thee. And the scribes and the Pharisees began to reason, saying, Who is this which speaketh blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone? But when Jesus perceived their thoughts, he answering said unto them, What reason ye in your hearts? Whether is easier, to say, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Rise up and walk? But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power upon earth to forgive sins, he said unto the sick of the palsy, I say unto thee, Arise, and take up thy couch, and go into thine house. And immediately he rose up before them, and took up that whereon he lay, and departed to his own house, glorifying God. And they were all amazed, and they glorified God, and were filled with fear, saying, "We have seen strange things today." And after these things he went forth and saw a publican named Levi sitting at the receipt of custom. And he said unto him, "Follow me." And he left all, rose up, and followed him. And Levi made him a great feast in his own house. And there was a great company of publicans, and of others that sat down with them. But their scribes and Pharisees murmured against his disciples, saying, "Why do ye eat and drink with publicans and sinners?" And Jesus answering said unto them, "They that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance." And they said unto him, "Why do the disciples of John fast often and make prayers, and likewise the disciples of the Pharisees, but thine eat and drink?" And he said unto them, "Can ye make the children of the bride chamber fast while the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, and then shall they fast in those days." And he spake also a parable unto them. "No man putteth a piece of a new garment upon an old. If otherwise, then both the new maketh a rent, and the piece that was taken out of the new agreeth not with the old. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles, else the new wine will burst the bottles and be spilled, and the bottles shall perish. But new wine must be put into new bottles, and both are preserved. No man also, having drunk old wine, straightway desireth new, for he saith, The old is better."
Okay, John, do we have any questions or announcements tonight?
Yes, we have quite a few questions, John.
Okay.
The first one I think you've heard before, so maybe we can resolve it tonight. It says, "We would welcome John Drash to come speak to our COS in Chester County, Pennsylvania, either live or over Zoom. Would he be interested in doing that?"
Okay, yeah, we could do it over Zoom.
Okay.
And do they have a time, a date, or anything?
No. I think, I'm not sure if this is the group that meets Wednesday night or Monday night. It's Dana, who is the moderator. One of them
we were talking about potentially a Monday, because I could do it before the Monday night program, maybe just something like that. I don't know.
Right. I think they have a set night, so we'll have to get what it is.
Yeah, let me know what it is.
Okay.
So
if it's Monday, would next Monday night work for you?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, we'll go from there. Next one. Are leases the better route or not to use if you have rental property, and what to do lawfully if renters refuse to pay the last few months' rent once they've been asked to leave and have no lease in Bronx, New York district?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't have much experience in leases, but of course I know from signing leases in the past, they usually ask for 1 or 2 months up front, and they give that back to the end. And I think, of course, the main reason for them to take a month or two in head is if they don't pay the last month, and if there's any damages, repairs could be made, and it's covered. So, but that's about all I can tell on leases. You with us, Jan? Am I still coming through? Testing?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
The next question. I read that Quo Warranto posted. I wanted to find out what the results of this process did.
Well, it hasn't done anything yet. It's all for future use, ultimately, because the courts don't listen to anything. I do think we have their attention to a few things that we've done. We've done a presentment to the United States Supreme Court. Usually they send papers back, but they've never sent these papers back. And, of course, it was done as a presentment from the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury. But prior to that, and we also did an indictment on the federal judiciary. We didn't send a copy of that to the Supreme Court, but we did send a copy to Attorney General Bondi and also, of course, Trump and numerous other people. So that's kind of lingering out there, and of course we're getting ready to file our next paper. I think we're very close to filing it, probably in the next week or two. I need to order a few more books. We needed about 45 books altogether in order to send information to Trump and the people around him, particularly his administration and other people, some senators and congressmen and a few other individuals. And our ultimate focus, of course, is trying to educate one or all of them. Educating one, I think if one individual sees and understands what we have discovered in our research and what we've been writing on in these books, particularly like on how to have government by consent. Again, if just one of them comes to realize the importance of these things that have been written, I'm convinced that they will really push the others. Hey, you got to look into this. So we'll see what's happening. I do believe we're going to probably get the administration behind us. We've done a few things in the past, and a few things that some of the people within his administration, Trump's administration, said leads me to wonder whether they are reading some of the stuff, because we have sent quite a bit of papers and presentments and different things to Trump and his administration. But then again, it could be just coincidental, and they happen to, and that's good too if that's the case, because then they understand what's going on more than we realize. Because I don't know how much they do understand concerning the courts. Remember, Trump is dependent upon bar attorneys. They surround him, and they're very good at what they do when they're focusing in on codes that is important for the president to understand his powers and authorities, which is in the statute, the codes. Particularly U.S.C. Title III is what the president operates under, if anybody wants to go read that. It's about 1,000 pages, so it's pretty long. So there's a lot of information written in there that empowers the president with quite a bit. U.S.C. 2 is on Congress, and U.S.C. 1 is the general provisions. And again, there's 57 different codes altogether. And I think one of them is vacant. It's just a number with nothing in them. But in any event, all of the different government agencies, they operate under codes, which is statutes and regulations, and they can be held liable to anything that they break in those codes, particularly the statutes that are considered law and equity, which they have to obey and remain within the particular jurisdictions written within the codes. So these lawyers are very good at that. The problem is that they're lawyers. I mean, they're bar attorneys. That's the problem. They're esquires, and esquires, of course, is a title of honor, which the 13th Amendment makes very clear. Anybody who holds a title of honor loses their citizenship and can never hold an office, an office of trust. So anyway. Trying to remember what exactly was the question. I'm not sure I even answered the question. I know it was building up on something. Can you reread the question again, John?
Yes. Maybe. I think this was the one that said, I read the Toronto posted.
Okay.
I wanted to find out.
Yeah, I got it now. I remember. So the Quo Wanto that we wrote, we had hope for it, but not strong hope, because they have been ignoring everything. And to get to the United States Supreme Court is extremely difficult. But again, the fact that we wrote the presentment and sent it away we did, I'm going to try to write this paper in a way that really is directed to them, to the United States Supreme Court, which they really will have no choice but to deal with it. Now, the only way that could happen, really, is getting a lot of exposure. And that's the reason why we're trying to contact all the individuals around Trump for that particular purpose and for that particular paper that I'm in the process of writing. So, but anyway, again, the courts are really civil law courts, and it's a real mess, and it's going to be real difficult to really make these individuals understand because as far as they're concerned, they believe that they are operating correctly. They believe that they're under Roman law, by the way. They believe that the United States is fashioned under Rome, and they have no real clue. They've been taught to lie all their lives in the lower class schools, K through 12. They were not taught civics or anything. And by the time they went into college, the higher education, particularly going through law school, that's when they were really taught to lie. Their minds have already been primed. And it's very difficult to make people look at something that they believe they already know and that you're crazy, you have no clue what you're talking about. But, we have plenty of proof in all of our footnotes that makes it clear that our position is in fact the truth and that our position is in fact the way it should be. And that they've been taught to lie. But it's hard for them to digest. Okay, next question.
Okay, I have completed drafting my complaint and would like help revising so that I don't have my lawsuit thrown out of court on some sort of technicality. Please let me know if there is someone I can reach out to for assistance. And he's suing U.S. Department of State, Anthony Blinken as Secretary of State, and 1 to 10 John Does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know anyone that I can refer you to. When you're writing a paper, and especially if you're going up against the status quo, particularly government, and this is up against the government, right?
Yep.
Yeah. You really have to be able to write a paper very well. And it takes, your first draft on the paper is exactly that, a first draft of probably 10 or 15 or more drafts, because you have to continually go through it and through it and through it and through it and through it. And you have to have a mindset. I try to teach the mindsets in our course. I don't know if this individual has taken our course, but they should take the course. And of course, that's going to take a while to go through the course. But you can find that under education starts here, and you come down to court access and the common law, and then you can go through this course. We give you can listen to the first 3 hours of the course for free, so people get sort of a taste or a flavor of the course. But again, within that course, I believe I've put together quite a few different mindsets that you have to have. Okay, and if you don't have that mindset, it affects all your writing. Another good way of getting a good mindset. As a matter of fact, I was thinking tonight, if we don't have too many people in the queue. Let me open the queue, by the way. Hang on a minute. Yeah, by the time we get off the Q&A here through the Jan, if we don't have anybody in the queue or many people in the queue, we may look at a little bit at this that I've been thinking about, and that is Memorandums of Law. This is a book that I've written. It might have been my most recent one, I don't remember, but this is only maybe up there a couple of months at most. And what I did was I pulled together a lot of memorandums of law that really focus in particularly, which most of my memorandums do anyway, is the problems with our court system and also our government in general. But really, a lot of problems. But for instance, this particular book, which again lists, I forget how many memorandums. I think there's 27 memorandums in here. There's also memorandums, maybe about 15 or so, in the Government by Consent book. These memorandums have been updated, because some of them, the 15 that are in the Government by Consent book is also in here, but again, there's some others that I put together that were not in the Government by Consent book. But the purpose of this book, really, and these memorandums, and the reason I'm going through this is because by reading through these memorandums, it'll give you some mindset. It'll give you certain pitches and understanding that you really should have about the problems and the solutions to the problems, the potential solutions to the problems. But just going to read this little paragraph here in the beginning of the preface. The purpose of this book is to provide memorandums of law in support of common law to educate the people of our true heritage and to reveal the destructive alterations of our republic by enemies domestic. Our heritage is in the law, and our inheritance is liberty. Okay, anyway, we may look a little bit at this tonight if we don't have many people in the queue. But, of course, we'll continue here. So, again, I don't know anybody particularly. You could potentially get a hold of Brent Allen Winters. He's a lawyer. He's not a bar attorney, but he is a lawyer. He does practice law. And he lives in a state where they don't require you to be a bar attorney, so they have schools there that are not bar schools. And there's a few states that have those non-bar schools. And but to work in the bar, I mean in the states that require the bar, you have to be a bar member. Otherwise, they don't let you practice in their courts. Of course, we, to some degree, they always try to throw us out. We can get away with it to some degree, coming in as a next friend, which is they have there's a federal code that talks about being a next friend. But anyway, getting back to the mindset, Brent might help you. But again, he's a lawyer, so he'll probably charge you to help you if you want to go that route. And you can find him at commonlawyer.com. Okay, that's commonlawyer.com. I don't have the time to do it. I'm just too tied up and busy and focused on what we're doing here, and I barely have enough time to do this. So. Okay, next question.
Okay, I have made several attempts, both by phone and physically in person, to our local state representative's office in request of his oath of office. His office had... Say again, John?
In request to what? I missed that. What you were reading.
Let me start over.
Right.
Because you're garbled to me and I'm not sure what you said. It says, I have made several attempts, both by phone and physically in person, to our local state representative's office in request of his oath of office. His office has replied with acknowledgement stating that they would look into the request. I have not received a copy of the oath. When I last visited his office, I looked at the secretary in the eye and asked again for a certified copy of the oath of office. I still have not received it. How do you suggest I lawfully go about procuring a copy of the oath and get them to once again respect their constituents? I initially had optimism for this new office and had previously offered my support, but that has since diminished.
Yeah, the problem is I think a lot of these people that are in office don't have an oath. And they have what's called a common bond, which we the people probably pay for. For instance, I know here in New York, I tracked it out for quite some time, Gerard and I, trying to find out where their oaths and where their bonds were at. We finally discovered that as far as New York is concerned, that it was down in the Southern District of New York, which is the main office where you have all of the kings of the court, might I call them, people who will really oversee all the courts in the state. And there's about, I think if I recall, I think there was like 8 people. I think Gerard said, maybe he remembers. I think there were 8 judges down there, or 6 judges that kind of controlled this. And they said that they have a common bond, if I recall correctly, and so they all tie into that. Now, whether they throw any money into that or not, I would gamble to say they're probably getting this for free. They're just jumping into the game, or they just pay a very low fee or something to get into it. And if anything goes wrong and we sue them, we end up suing ourselves because we're paying for it. So Hello, Gerard. If you want to comment a little on this, unmute yourself. He's down in Florida or some place. Where are you at?
I didn't hear the whole question. Repeat it for me, please.
He's looking for oaths and bonds on a particular individual, congressman particularly. I'm not sure what state the guy is in, but I was just going to talk. I was just talking about a little bit what we discovered here in New York when we were trying to find oaths and bonds, and we discovered that at least the bonds and maybe the oaths were also tied in down there in Southern District. And there was a group of judges that really are overseers of all of the court system, unified court system in New York State. And I think there was 7 or I think there was 6 or 8 of them. I don't remember. I don't know if there's anything you can add to that or correct.
Now, this is in Pennsylvania.
This is in Pennsylvania. Yeah, probably worse than New York. They outright call their courts chancery courts, and they call their judges chancellors in Pennsylvania there. Maybe not all the time, but quite often.
Yeah, Pennsylvania's got a few things that are different than New York for sure. You know, I was going to say crap. What was I going to say about the judges?
What are you on a tropical island out there?
Why?
Your background.
Oh, I didn't even know that was up there. I wish I was. They call the clerk the batonatory in Pennsylvania. It's a little the process is a little different than New York, you know. But I still think it works. You know what I mean?
Well, the end result of all these courts is denial of due process, no matter how you get to it. Even if they give you a jury, it's a denial of due process because it's a stacked jury.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, unless you
on the plane. I thought I had something to say, and it's gone now. So I'm
sorry. What were the names of some of those judges? There was one judge down there, particularly, I think, was a foreigner, wasn't even born here, and I'm sure they're a citizen at this point.
Well, remember Gail Prudente, the Chief Justice?
Prudente, yes.
She was born in Switzerland. She's a Switzerland citizen. She come over here. She doesn't know the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't grow up with it in her heart.
Well, it appears that all these judges don't know the Constitution, watching and seeing what they've been doing to Trump and what they do to us. They totally ignore the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, but at least in America, you get the feeling for it. If you grow up in a foreign country, you got a completely different idea of what freedom is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, here, we're all ignorant. At least I speak for myself first, of course. But I've decided to educate myself, so I'm no longer ignorant to the law and the Constitution and the history of the country and who we are as a people and that we're a Christian nation and so on and so forth. But you know, even though people are ignorant, we kind of have liberty and appreciate liberty to a certain degree. I would say, through osmosis, so to speak. And so we're kind of born and growing up thinking we're free and independent. Unfortunately, we are in a statutory prison, and if you find yourself ended up in court, you're going to discover you've been in shackles all along and didn't even know it. But ignorance of the law is the main problem, as Jefferson said. If the people expect to be ignorant and free, they expect what never was and never will be. So therefore, all of us being ignorant of the law and need to really get educated, you know, we may think we're free, we're not. You know, you look at the administration, for instance, Trump trying to bring things back under the Constitution. I don't believe he understands common law. I don't even think they have any understanding of it. And I think all the people around him don't have any understanding. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the impression I get from listening to these people. But, okay. So we'll go on.
I know what I want to say.
Yeah.
As far as the bonds go, we found that they're not doing bonds. They're doing a blanket bond under the county. And that's not even really legal for certain things. Some things they need to carry their own bond. You know what I mean? So they put it all in a big fund, which and they get something.
We may be paying the lion's share of that, no less.
What's that?
we the people may be paying the lion's share for those bonds.
Well, yeah, because it's the county insurance. It's what it's under.
It's collective, but it's all registered and held down in the Southern District of New York, down there in Manhattan.
Right. So, but there are certain things that a judge is supposed to put up his own money. He's supposed to have his own insurance policy.
Absolutely.
And there's a good reason for that. So it's like they're not following any of that. They're doing whatever the hell they want, and they push it all together. And I don't think that if you look at the way they're applying it and using it, it's not really a bond per se.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that was the other thing.
And the other thing was the oaths. We have no clue. What didn't they say the oaths were down there too? Did they claim that in the Southern District?
I see. I don't quote me, but yeah, I thought that there was something like that. But they're supposed to produce them. They're supposed to have them.
Well, that individual that was asking the questions, if you want to go back and talk to people about that, I would get yourself a pocket constitution, and if you open it up, you'll find an oaths and bonds. Well, oaths particularly, I know that. And that I believe you'll find things under Article 1 specifically talking about the Congress and the Senate are to have an oath. So where is your oath? And that is the question. So.
And if you don't have an oath, you're not serving. The office is empty. And
right.
Anybody can come in and take it then. They can just claim it.
That's like pulling teeth and trying to get someone out. You'd be assaulted pretty quickly. But yeah, it's a problem. I mean, this is something you could do on the low end, maybe on the board, town boards or something like that to remove individuals, maybe using a call warrant to giving them 3 days to show by what authority. And then, therefore, when they don't respond, they vacate their office by that lack of responding. Silence is equated with fraud when you have a duty to speak. And the call warrant lays that right out clearly.
I seem to remember that if you catch them and with no oath and bond, I always attach bond to that, but mainly the oath, that they can't run in and do the oath after the fact. It's too late. There's a statute or something that says...
Why don't you try to research that out a bit, see if you can find it, because I was looking for something on these things, and,
I specifically remember that. If you find that they don't have one, and you notice them and you say you have no bond, the office is not filled, they can't go in there and do their and we've had some people do that where we were asking and last minute they went ahead and did the paperwork. That's not legal.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to our next person. Our next question there with Jan. Go ahead, Jan. You have any others?
That was the last question, John. You're all done.
Okay. All right, we do have some people in the queue, so we'll take some questions in the queue. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. It's someone from St. Louis, Missouri. You got the mic. Let's see if I can open that mic up. Okay, you got the mic.
What's your first?
Yep. What's your first name?
My name's John.
Who?
And I'm kind of questioned here. How do I get my case to go before a common law grand jury?
Well, there really aren't many of those around. I don't know really. I know what we put together as a common law grand jury, and the whole purpose of it really is to deal with subversion by enemies, domestic particularly within the judiciary. And we're not really taking any cases or anything of that nature. We were doing a lot of certain cases like habeas corpuses and non-judicial foreclosures for quite some time a while back, and the purpose of that was to show that, well, we were kind of hoping we'd get some justice and really get some cases, successes in some of these cases, and people would not lose their homes. But we didn't get any successes. I think we had one habeas corpus and maybe one home that was saved by that, but I'm not sure on those. But nevertheless, what we did do is use that as to build a case of conspiracy, because we hit quite a few federal courts in many, many states. And whether you're dealing with a federal court out in Texas or Missouri or Montana or New York or Jersey or Florida, or no matter where you're at, they're all doing the same thing, saying the same thing. They're very consistent in the way that they operate, and that proves conspiracy.
Ooh.
So that was the things we're doing. But, there are people that are pushing forward some grand juries here or there. I don't know if they're doing it correctly or not. Some of them, I think, spun off from us, but we've been trying to hold people back on that to really, before they get a real good, serious education, understand what's going on, and really work with us. Because one of the main things we're trying to do, as far as the courts are concerned, is to return, common law grand juries and trial juries back into the hands of the people in every county in America. Because in every county there's a state court. And in that court, there are juries, grand juries and trial juries. And that should be run by the people and not by bar attorneys, as it is right now. It's run by bar attorneys. And they abuse the people. And they apply statutes.
Right.
And that is all problematic. So, there's no common law grand juries that I'm aware of, particularly, at least not there where you're at.
Right on. Is there any protection for us American state nationals that, against the municipal, police or anything of that nature?
Well, repeat that question. I missed the first part of that. Is there any what?
Any type of protection or any type of, any laws that have shut them down?
Well, they don't listen to the Constitution. I've been in court many, many times, and I've brought up Bill of Rights, I've brought up due process, I've brought up many, many things, and they work their ways around it. They don't listen, they don't apply it, they don't appreciate it, and they don't like you. They're just,
Right.
a lot of them are uneducated to begin with. On the federal level, I think they're far more educated than on the state level, but nevertheless, maybe they're more guilty because they do know more than those on the state level. If you're dealing with a county court, or particularly village courts, town courts, city courts, those particular courts, the judges in those courts are absolute, in every case that I've been involved with, are absolute morons when it comes to the law. And even their own statutes, they don't know anything. And at least that's my experience mostly here in New York. And it's a major problem. So this, of course, is what we're working on, trying to reestablish. As a matter of fact, our paperwork going in is going to be dealing with the Rules Enabling Act going directly to the United States Supreme Court, which I think we can box them in to force them to answer if we can get enough people working with us to get this message out. We're going to get a copy of this to about 45 individuals around Trump, which includes his entire cabinet. And but we need to get on podcasts. We need to get the paper, once we write it, we need our members really to get these papers out, to share it with as many different individuals on the internet as they possibly can, so we can get a lot of attention. Because if we get a lot of attention, that may put them into a predicament where they have no choice but to deal with the problem. The Rules Enabling Act was the beginning of the end of our courts. We go back to the Organic Act of 1871, which was the beginning of the plan of, really constructing a statutory prison. By the time we got to the Rules Enabling Act, that just totally threw the Constitution out the door, moved us into civil law, and our cases are being heard by chancellors, we call them judges also, when common law does not permit that. Only the people can judge people. So, hopefully soon. Again, hopefully our paperwork will go in the next week or two. We're still looking for a few more dollars. We got some people who gave this past week. I think we collected, let's see, I think it was about $210. So we're very close to covering our costs. But we do still need some more money if anybody can give, a one-time gift of whatever they can. So, Anything else? Okay, guess we're done with that person. I don't see him in the queue no more. Okay, next, and by the way, we only got 2 people in the queue. If anybody wants to get into the queue, star 6 and 1 if you're on a phone, and if you're on a browser or an app, there should be a button there to press to get into the queue. So anybody gets in the queue, now's the time to do it. We got 2 people in there. Okay, we're going to Anthony, West Virginia. You got the mic. Go right ahead.
Hello, how you doing, John?
Good. Good. Yourself?
Doing all right. I heard you say something about it hard to get to the Supreme Court. Several years ago, when I was in Montana, I dug up some information. I just came across it. It said that attorney generals of the state can originate. They can originate a case that can go straight to the Supreme Court because nobody else can see it. There's no other jurisdiction. I was wondering if maybe the things that you need to do, you can get an attorney general of one of the states to write it up for you and get it in through that process. Is that a possibility?
Well, yeah, what you're talking about is what's called original jurisdiction. And the case we're talking about, which is the Rules Enabling Act, which totally abrogated the common law, that is a case that can only be heard by the Supreme Court. So we don't have to go through a trial court, then through the other courts, the appellate courts, and then eventually work through. Goodness, I don't know how to pronounce this. Certiorari. I don't know if anybody knows how to pronounce that better. But anyway, that is a request ultimately to go to the Supreme Court. The problem is, and I hope I got my numbers right, they are high, and I'm thinking 6,000 or 7,000 cases a year. It's a lot of cases that go up to the Supreme Court. And of those, only about 150 to 200 cases are actually heard. I can understand, they're limited to begin with, okay? And I'll bet dollars to donuts a lot of these cases that go up there, really, they don't have the ability to hear them anyway. And so, but they do hear about 150 to 200 cases a year out of that 6,000 or 7,000, whatever it is.
But what I heard in this case, it's mandatory. If it's the right, put together the right way, it can't go to any other court, so the Supreme Court would have to hear it. Did I have that wrong?
No, not at all. This is a case that they do have to hear. They don't have a choice. That doesn't mean they're going to hear it, okay? We got some serious problems even up in the Supreme Court.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's always that option that they're just going to stonewall you, but that doesn't mean that they're not directed to. That doesn't mean they're not directed to actually take it. They would just be breaking the law not to take it, is what you're saying they're going to do.
Well, they break the law anyway. Look, they're all knowledgeable of the fact.
Exactly. I was just thinking that is a process, but if you don't think it's worthwhile.
It is a process.
I don't even know if it's applicable to the situation. I just happened to think about it. I thought I'd give you a call.
That is the process, and that is the process we're using. We're going to them because they have original jurisdiction, and nobody else can hear this. So if we were to go to a trial court, they would bluntly just say, "Hey, this whole thing is all moot. So let's move on. Forget about it. Your case dismissed." And you take it to the appellate court, they'll give you the same thing. And so it's an undecided thing that has to be decided by whoever has original jurisdiction, and obviously that's the United States Supreme Court. So that's the process we're using. We don't have to go through the trial court. We don't have to spend a year or two in the courts and going through everything else and then finally getting to the Supreme Court. So
okay, you're using the process that I thought of then. And they're just not going to hear it anyway, according to.
Well, I don't know about that because again, we're going to put a lot of pressure on them. We're going to copy Trump. We're going to copy Attorney General Bundy. It's a very powerful case if they'll read it. Look at the problem is who was it, that writer that said this? I'm trying to think. It's not what you don't know that gets you. It's what you think you know that ain't so that's going to get you. Now, I'm not saying the quote word for word, but that is pretty much what it said. And that's a true statement. These people think they know something because, after all, they spent $250,000, $250,000, $200,000 to go through law school, and they got their degrees, and they're working in the courts, and as far as they know, the knowledge that they have is rock solid. That we're under Roman law, that our nation is created under Rome, and that we're a democracy. These are all things they're true believers of these things. Now, when you come and tell them, what they think is blue is actually red, or whatever the case may be, they don't even give you the time of day at that point. So this is a difficult thing to go. It's an uphill battle. I've spoken to many lawyers, and they immediately just reject it and make an argument. And as far as they're concerned, I'm just a crazy. But all we need is one person amongst them out of 45 people around Trump, only one person to actually look at this. And we'll probably get a non-lawyer to look at this, someone like Trump, one of Trump's
sons. I hope it works out. I hope somebody does catch it. Mm-hmm.
Or Musk, and someone like that.
We need honesty, John. We just need to get back to honesty. That's why I've mentioned it before. I believe it only, and I know you disagree with me, but to me, it's we, the honest Christian people, that can run this nation the way our founding fathers meant it to, because like second President John Adams said, our Constitution is only made for moral and religious people. Yep. And in those days, religious people meant born-again people, people who knew Jesus Christ.
I was fighting on the side.
Gerard, you got to mute your mic there.
What's that?
Gerard. I'm talking to Gerard. He's got his mic open. Okay, well, look, I agree and don't agree with you on the one thing. You don't have to be a Christian to go into office.
I understand. We've had that conversation.
But you have to accept the principles of where law comes from, okay? You don't have to believe that, but you have to accept that because that's who we are as a people. And for some people, this is hard to digest. Jesus Christ is the king of our court because we're under common law. The people who sit on a bench, the trial jury, is referred to as the bench, the king's bench, and that king is Christ. It's God. And that is established under the Declaration of Independence. Okay, very clearly, that's the foundation of our entire government, and and it lays out the foundation of our law right there in the Declaration.
The Mayflower Compact, in the name of God, amen. And when you see the Mayflower Compact written, you'll see that sentence usually omitted. The very first sentence of the Mayflower Compact, in the name of God, amen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But the important paper, as far as our law is concerned, is the main three documents. It starts off with the Declaration of Independence, which is the foundation of our law and our government. The Constitution, is the process by which what powers we gave to our government, dividing it into three branches, and so that rests on. So that's the framework of the Constitution. That rests on the Declaration of Independence, and the capstone is the Bill of Rights.
That's right.
You got to understand one thing, though. Lawyers do not learn the Constitution. It's referred from time to time, but they do not give them any instructions in the Constitution. As a matter of fact, the first lawyer that I've learned from, who gave a course, and one of the things he's mentioned numerous times in his course, that use statutes. We shouldn't use the Constitution because we can use statutes that's established in the courts, and it's much clearer. There's no interpretation. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so they've been taught that. This is what they've been taught. After all, they spent $250,000 for education. They got to know something, don't they? But they realize they just spent their money for the lie. But I will tell you one thing, okay? The lawyers on the top end, the lawyers that are really, really intelligent, that are working, for instance, in the government, maybe around the president particularly, or other individuals, they study the statutes and that's their forte. That's what they're into. So they advise, for instance, the president under USC 3, which is what governs the president, and gives him, they can give them an understanding of what their powers are, what they can do and what they can't do. So they, presidents always have to refer to those lawyers around them, and that works out okay because they're only focused in on that. But when they step out of that and do a case outside of that arena, so to speak, and you're dealing with the people, then they screw everything up because they continue that idea of statutes applied upon the people, and the process of judges, applying upon the people. So, anyway.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd bring that up, and that's exactly the process you're using. The chances are, let's pray that somebody takes a look at it and makes it and lets it move forward, and they do the right thing. That's we just got to pray just to make it today. I say MC Hammer back in the '80s. He wrote one of his little pop rap songs. You got to pray just to make it today. Anyway, that's the old AJ the DJ, and I used to use that tune right after the dinner when we're getting ready to go into the dancing mode. I'd put on MC Hammer. You got to pray just to make it today. I'll see you later, man. Hey, thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, let us take our next caller. It's David B. David, what state you from? You got the mic.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Earlier you read my email about the complaint that I was putting together, and I guess you suggested that I reach out to Brett Winters, but I've attempted to contact him twice.
Yeah, you're coming in a little muffled to me. Try again. You said something about a case or something that you sent. And what? By the way, David, what state are you in?
Georgia.
Georgia. Okay. You said something about a case. Have we spoken before?
Right. Yeah, we just spoke we've spoken over the years, and we spoke last week.
Okay.
At the Monday night, the Monday night call last week. Monday night call, we spoke about this. I've been working on this for the last.
Okay, and what's your question or comment?
Well, I know you said you had no.
I don't know, you're coming in and out. I don't know. Try pulling your mic a little further because you're a little muffled too, and let's see how you sound. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just say that.
David, you there?
Hold on 1 second. I just have to take this Bluetooth headset off. Can you hear me now?
That's a lot better. I don't know what you've done, but you're clear now. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, I took off my Bluetooth headset because it was muffled. So
yeah,
what I was saying was
Bluetooth doesn't seem to work very well on
no, it doesn't.
So for some reason. I know because I had a Bluetooth and it was a problem. So, but go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, like I was saying, I know you suggested that I reach out to Brett Winters, but I've attempted to reach out to him twice this week to no avail. I've gotten no response, and I know you've just recently stated that you don't have time to kind of review the attachment that I sent. I get it, but again, this was, I guess, more or less meant for the constituents of the group. If anybody, just to reach out to other members, if they have similar cases or a similar pattern that they are taking a complaint out on the government, and would like to sit in with me and kind of like go through this, so I could have a second set of eyes taking a look at this. That's all that I'm asking about. Not particularly that. And again, like I said, Brett Winters I've not gotten back in he's not gotten back in contact with me, so I'm not sure where to go with this at this point, unless I'm just going to do it myself.
All right. Well, if you want to put out a phone number or your email or something that maybe someone might respond to that might be helpful, and again, two minds are better than one, and so on. You could do that here if you want.
Well, there's no way to do that. Yeah, you guys are blocked off, and I can't see anyone. I can't see any other members on the forum with start meeting. The only people I can see are the people who are associated with National Liberty Alliance. So
Right.
other members I cannot see.
If you want to give out your phone number right now, that's if you want to do that. But my number's out there. I don't get a lot of calls from it, and I haven't found any abuse. But if you wanted to do that, you can do that now. Maybe someone listening in on YouTube or Rumble, maybe someone will work with you. So if you want to do that, go ahead. Give out your phone number.
If somebody would like to, to chime in on this complaint that I have, or has anything that they can add to it, or want to help me review it, my phone number is 404-368-7639. All suggestions are greatly appreciated. So anyone who would like to contact me, my name is David. Please do reach out. Thank you.
Give the number one more time.
That number is 40.
We just lost you. 40. You dropped your mic, Dave. All right. Okay, I don't know if you're hearing me, Dave, but you dropped your mic. But one of you have a problem right off the bat is you're calling it a complaint. And once you call it a complaint, that's a civil court law. That's a civil court jurisdiction. So again, these little things and mindsets is a necessity to really be able to really lay your case out, because they will constantly, there's all kinds of words out there that constantly put you back under their jurisdiction. You have to be careful not to use it. Okay, anybody interested in working with David, give him a call. And like I said, 2 or 3 minds are better than one, but you have to go through things over and over and over again. And I strongly suggest people going into the courts that they take our course. And again, our course is under Education Starts Here, and you click on Court Access in the Common Law, and you'll be led on how to get into our course. It's a 90-hour law course. But a complaint is really a big problem using those words. As a matter of fact, we filed some papers recently, and of course, we called it a court of record and so on. Once we put the papers in, they tried to change the wording right there to a complaint, and made a big thing about that. And goodness, that's against the law to begin with. You can't be putting things on the paper that we don't give you permission to begin with. And then they did take that off and let it be the way it was. So. But they knew what they were doing, or at least they're trained to say you got to call these things a complaint. That brings you under civil law. So, all right, David, if you hear us and can talk, go right ahead. And otherwise, we're going to move to the next caller. Okay, I'm not hearing David anymore. So, okay, Jim, you got the mic. What state you from, Jim? Are you Jim from Pennsylvania?
No, I'm from Connecticut.
Jim from Connecticut, you got the mic.
I'm dealing with the civil cases down here, or case. It's a divorce with custody stuff. I'm dealing with 3 rogue judges. They're all playing games with me. They've all been lying the entire time, which is what they do. Courts don't have any authority over us. They're fake, phony, false de facto, which we're all aware of. And I did a letter to cure for 3 days to have them come up with the oath of offices. I did submit for it. I did get a reply back from the office that's supposed to have it. Of course, I didn't get the oaths. I got this little thing showing me that they took it, but they didn't actually send me the oath itself. So 3 days before the court, I gave them 3 days to cure, and I went into a trial, and I said, these are, I didn't say corporate bylaws, but I said basically you guys are operating under the color of law. It's not constitutional. I read off Article 6, Paragraph 2. I said none of these laws you guys are statutes you guys are using are lawful. I see you have the quo warrantos on the site there. I'm the petitioner there, basically. I fill that out, and then that's up to the court if they want to stamp the seal on it. Is that how that works?
Well, again, yeah, I would use a quote that
Go ahead.
I would use a quote one to in this matter at the moment anyway. Look at family courts. I can speak concerning the New York law. It's probably the same thing there. Family courts are called courts of record. At least it's called that in the Constitution, which really blows my mind. But in any event, clearly they are not courts of record because they proceed with chancellors and under civil law, which are statutes, which again has nothing to do with the common law, nothing to do with courts of record. But here's the thing: if you go to is your ex-wife reasonable, or is she totally unreasonable?
No. The biggest concerns here is she wants to inject into 3 of my kids vaccines, and I already have 2 damaged boys. So this is the problem. So I need to hold the judges accountable. So when this last trial I had, when I did the 3-day notice, I came up to this trial, and of course the main judge that's supposed to be there, she wasn't there. They switched them out. And then the very next day after this whole thing went, they've been giving her everything she wants, because that's what they do. And then the very next day after all this is over with, the judge that was supposed to be sitting on the bench is the judge that signed off on the ruling. How interesting is that?
Well, again, they're all crooked anyway. But here's the thing, though: if anybody going through divorce court, they really need to really think this out. One of the problems is people went and got a license to marry. I mean, go think about that. You get a license to marry, okay? That puts a partner into your relationship with your wife. That's a problem to begin with. You have to understand that. Now, the fact that we didn't understand that before, that gives us a position, and maybe make an argument concerning that if we have to. But here's what I suggest. I've done a divorce case once already, and I advise another individual on their divorce case, and so I have pretty good understanding, because I did dig down a little deep into the system, what they got set up. Now, if you go into the family court, or this case, it's the divorce court, which is part of the family court system. If you go to the court clerk, and you could do this on a phone call, really, and just ask them where you can find the information on coming in and doing a case that there is no conflict between the two. In other words, you've already agreed on everything. And if you go pull that information down, it's like a booklet, and it's usually in PDF form. And it goes through the whole process. It explains everything. It goes through the whole process, and it goes through all the questionnaires and all the forms and everything that needs to be filled out and accomplished by the time that you get to the end of the case. Now, what you could do is you can sit down and go with your ex-wife, or your wife to become ex, I guess, and go through that whole process and come to an agreement before you go into court. And one of the motivators of that is the fact that if you don't come to an agreement and work this out ourselves, rest assured you're not going to get much of anything, because these lawyers are going to take as much as they can, and they're going to give you a lawyer, and whatever income I got coming out, I got to pay for that. They're going to give the children, each child's going to get a lawyer, I got to pay for that, and then of course whether you get a lawyer or not, that's a whole thing also. So just the legal fees alone is just going to exhaust huge amounts of money. Okay,
well,
so it's.
I should have started. This has been over a year case. I've been handling it all by myself.
Yeah, but the thing is did you download all the information to understand? I will tell you one thing. They have these questionnaires that they ask, of what you own and what kind of money you make, and same thing for her, the relation. It's all kinds of questions, and then they lay out formulas. And I want to tell you, as far as the formulas are concerned, I think it's pretty just. The problem is you're losing a lot of money with lawyers to begin with. Okay, if you have a situation that if you were to work out with your ex and say, okay, let's agree on to what we can't and and let us look to see some of the things that we don't agree on. And then we can try to discuss that. Let me finish. We could try to discuss that, and maybe we can negotiate something out. And you got to give a little, you take a little. You shouldn't be giving all the time and the other side taking all the time. No, there's a little giving and a little taking. It's back and forth. You work it out. Negotiate what you can. Now, the big thing, which sounds the biggest problem, is with your children, okay? So if you can't negotiate that, I don't know why anybody thinks they have to go get these particular shots at this point in time. There's plenty of information out there. She probably listens to, CNN or ABC or whatever, and is just getting all that false information. Maybe what you could try to do is say, hey, let's look at some people who are serious doctors, and there's a lot of stuff on the internet. Let's see what they have to say about this. What is it that they're doing? What is it that this shot is doing to you? And how many people are dying over this, or heart conditions, and just dropping dead? A lot of athletes have dropped dead, and so on and so forth. But if you can't negotiate that out, let's say you have 2 or 3 items you just can't negotiate out. Well, then you file all your papers into the family court, or the divorce court, they call it. You file all your papers there. We've all agreed on all these things, and you go through the process. And they don't want all the papers at one time. It's a stage. And they work through stage because they want the lawyers to make their money, in my opinion. That's why they're going through the stage. There's someone that goes in there, because when I went in to help somebody, we went in there to lay everything out. But of course, there was a problem on the other side. But in any event, the bottom line is you can then, let's take the problems with the children getting these shots that you don't want them to take. Well, you could build a really good case and get a lot of doctors behind that case just by finding them on YouTube and Rumble, and just going on the internet. You'll find all kinds of stuff on that that'll support your position that this thing is dangerous. And you could bring that right into the Supreme Court, into your state court, let's say. And they don't have a choice. You're appealing it to the state court, and you want a jury. Now, that's going to be another problem. It's going to be a stacked jury. But again, you have at least a chance.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's no due process here.
Yeah, no.
Comes to divorce.
I know. That's why, again, you have to negotiate all these details out with your wife before even getting in deep into the court. Now, I know you said you've been in there for a while, but you should try to pull yourself out with her and put sort of a hold on it and say, wait a second, we want to talk. Because once she's got a lawyer, they don't even want you to talk to her no more. But you got to stop that. You got to figure, if you can't do that, you really got a big problem, because then it's a big fight. And and these judges are true believers in their powers and authorities. They think they're God to some degree. They think that they know it all. They know nothing. They think that they understand the law. They understand nothing. And so you're talking to total ignorance. And there's nothing more dangerous than ignorance in power. Okay, nothing. And so you got to try to fix it with the wife, and make her to understand we're going to lose every penny we got. Everything's going to lawyers. No matter what we do, everything is going to end up into the lawyers' pockets. You're not going to get anything, and I'm going to be stuck holding a bag with nothing. It's just, we're going to be in deep trouble for years to come. So that's what I suggest.
John, I have been attacked by the banking cartel. I've lost all my businesses. She waited till all the money was gone before she bailed. She's well aware of the dangers of these vaccines. It's all about her and getting her own life back. She don't care about these kids. So it's all been laid out.
Well, that you could take into the state court. You can remove that immediately. You see, when you come to a problem and it can't get solved in a divorce court, okay, and they try to arbitrate that, and they'll try to have hearings to arbitrate, you have to deny that and say, no, I'm moving this into the state court, okay? And, here in New York, we call the state court the Supreme Court. I don't know what they call it in your state. But
John?
Yeah.
You got one big problem here.
Go ahead.
If he's talking about vaccines that are on the childhood vaccine schedule, as far as they're concerned, there is no negotiation. Those have been mandated by law. In other words, he's not just talking about the COVID vaccine. These kids that are getting damaged, they're getting damaged by the MNRA and all these childhood vaccines. The court is not going to want to take it up, first of all, and they're going to back the status quo right now. We haven't gotten far enough with Robert Kennedy yet for them to say that those vaccines are no good, and that, I went through a lot of trouble with vaccines, and they wanted you to prove that there was a bad reaction and all this other bullshit. And none of the vaccines, even the childhood vaccines, they have never been tested. None of them. You should go through Robert Kennedy's stuff. That's the style of stuff that you want to argue, and then you want to put them in a position where if they make the wrong decision and they cause your kid to be vaccinated, that they will be responsible for the damage as well. There has to be consequences for them.
Yeah, they all know. All the doctors know. Dr. Artis came out.
Get closer to your mic. We're not hearing you very well. Get closer to your mic.
I can't hear him at all, and then when you come in, you blow me away.
All right, well, I'm trying to tell him, get closer to your mic. Lower your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, go ahead.
There you go.
Dr. Artis came out and said that there is nail polish remover in these vaccines and monkey feces in it.
They don't.
I've already put the stuff underneath the microscope, and they know it's in it. And Kennedy knows, too. They just can't shock the people that quick because it's going to shock the whole entire nation.
They've never tested them. They've never been tested. None of them. Zero. None. There's no blind test on any of them.
This is to destroy these children. And we all know it. They all know it. But they're pushing stuff through. And you would think after the school system was no longer with the federal government anymore, that would have automatically got rid of these mandatory stuff.
Yeah.
Trump put it back to the state.
Well, the problem with that is they're being funded federally. Even if they're disconnected, they're still being funded federally. And the federal, they can require, for instance, good things like require children to learn civics and require that children don't learn this crazy stuff, these demoralizing things. I
have two boys that don't even speak. So.
Well, it's not. How old are your children?
I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old that never spoke a day in their lives. And I have a young daughter that is, concerned. I made sure she didn't get anything. And now she thinks that, because the schools are telling her to do it, she's younger than me.
The 11 and the 9-year-old, they got the shots?
We waited a year for my 9-year-old. He was typical until he got the shots.
And then they stopped speaking?
He never spoke.
Even before the shots?
Well, he was only a year old. So
he got him very young.
My 11-year-old got all the whammo of the shots right from the. I mean, this is war. I mean, we know what this is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I rather just knock all three judges off the bench, because if I do the writ and they don't rebut it, then I'm just going to send it to the military, because that's treason.
Yeah, well, we've worked through the military too on that.
But at least it's filed. And when they make their moves, they can come for them.
That is true. To make your case is the key. Whether you lose or win, at least to make the case for the future. The problem is meanwhile they're destroying your children. Your wife just doesn't want to listen. I mean, she understands.
She does zero research. I have been researching this since the kid's been sick. I've shown her everything. I even showed her the whole thing about the pineal gland being damaged from it. All that. Nope. She's too programmed, doesn't want to listen to nothing. It's all about her anyway. This is a bigger issue behind this, but
there is, that's probably an environmental situation that has caused that for her. But nevertheless, the ignorance of these things and many things is our education, because they were programming us, just like the word you used, they're programmed.
And before the court case started, she took off, and basically, as far as I'm concerned, she kidnapped the kids and took off. And I asked the courts over and over, and I told the judges over and over, I go, this is considered kidnapping. And then they tried to make me do this close app, which is a tracking device for me and her talking, which is against Trump's executive order, human trafficking. They're breaking federal law. All right? There's all kinds of pieces here that I could shove at them, but if I do the writ at least and let them know that if you don't rebut this, and you know what their oath of office is going to be to a corporation anyway.
Well, what kind of an education do you have as far as being able to go into a court? Have you taken any courses anywhere?
I took one. I don't want to name a name because I don't want to give the guy any. I did buy a package, and You know, of course, and it says, don't talk about the Constitution, don't talk about this. And I used it, and it got me through.
That's probably the same one we did, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, it got us through, it got me through it.
Yeah,
But everything I asked for, they object and I couldn't get.
It gave you a reasonable, good structure of how the court works, but not sufficient enough, and no common law, and they pushed towards statutes. But anyway, it did give an understanding of the due process procedures, okay? And that is a key point. So that's what I got out of that. But
I did bring up what was in the shots under oath, and I did bring up that you are denying me my unalienable rights. So I have all this stuff kind of under oath.
You could do a writ quo wanto. I think you were talking about that, right? You could do a writ quo.
I want to just jam them good, even if I got to send more than one, you know.
Yeah. So if you do a writ quo wanto, you make it clear. You know, you have to be very careful. You know, we've got some information on the website on that. I'm sure you might have seen it under Education Scott go to law, and if you take our course. You know, that'll give you a huge amount of information.
Well, that was my question about the writ. Do I just fill it out and they're supposed to stamp it, or because I'm going to use registered mail anyway, so they're either going to accept it or the authorities will be down there asking them why they didn't.
Yeah, well, again, a writ quo wanto. Again, you're not looking for permission. You want to write it from the. It gets back to mindset. This is so key. You have to think free before you can start acting free. So your writing has to be with the thinking of freedom. We're not asking for, you don't have to say it, but in a roundabout way you do say it. You know, we're not asking for your permission. We're not asking for your blessings. This is it. We're coming in. Show us by what authority you act.
Right. Exactly. That's what I need to do.
You want their oaths. You want their bonds. You want them onto the record. And when they don't answer, you got to default them. And then you got to move it up the process to the appellate process and so on and so forth, because you're already stuck in this system that's a civil law system, but you're trying to move your jurisdiction into a court of record. You can't use certain words.
I don't think we have an Article 3 court here. And we haven't had a sheriff here in 30 years.
I don't think there's an Article 3 court in the entire nation, to be honest with you. I haven't found one. Okay.
Yeah.
An Article 3 court ultimately has two sides to it. One's equity and one is law. Law is common law. Equity, of course, is legislative law for people who work for government agencies or commercial activities, and so they have to operate under those conditions. But other than that, we're the people. We're not bound by that. We're not bound by the mind of men. You see, again, a mindset. Okay, you have to think free, and you have to have these mindsets when you write. And if you don't, you have no guide, no side rail, so to speak.
Isn't the case already null and void because I don't have due process? Shouldn't it already be null and void?
Well, of course, you could take it to federal court and sue for denial of due process, okay? Because you're not getting due process, that's true. But you have to require and push for the due process. And again, that takes knowledge. That makes open a court of record. That means that, look at summary judgments and null and void. They have no power, no authority in this court. Because the summary judgments are alien to common law. It's repugnant. And so this is what we do all day long. Every day you go into a court, they're always doing these summary judgments throughout the day, constantly.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, the seal at the bottom of the writ, is that something they're supposed to physically do, or is that something I'm supposed to have sealed?
Well, you could just put the word seal if you don't have a seal, you know.
Can I have it notarized?
Well, of course. It has to be notarized. It has to be notarized because, again, depends on where the seal is placed. There's a request for the seal under the notary, and a lot of notaries don't have the embrasser seals. They only have that stamp. I like to get the embrasser seal because that is what really makes it lawful. But you get I go to my bank. All the people in my bank are notaries, and they all have the hard seal, the embrasser seal.
Yeah, I didn't see a notary thing at the bottom of it. It just said seal, and usually if there's a notary, it has.
Well, again, now the seal on the bottom of that particular paper, that would be your seal if you have one. Okay. And I have my own seal. And we also have the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury seal.
Yeah, you guys did a fantastic job with that. I saw that SG came out with that, and I was like, wow, you guys did a great job.
But anyway, the seal, just leave the word seal there. Don't put a seal on it if you don't have one. But the key thing, though, is, in the quo wanto, I don't think that has to be notarized. I'd have to really go through it real quickly just to get a bit of flavor, but I don't think it has to be notarized because you're not making any statements that you're swearing to. You're going out with an assault, ultimately saying, hey, you don't have power, you don't have authority, you think you got it, prove it, show it to me. Because what a quo wanto ultimately is by what authority you act.
And that memorandum I sent in with it, right? I just register it in, probably.
Well, you could take any of the memorandums that we've written and use them however you want, and you can, again, what I do when I write a case is, you want to keep the main part of the case nice and clean. So if you have a situation where you're trying to educate at the same time, first of all, I use a lot of footnotes. Okay, that's a very important thing to use footnotes because you're absolutely clear on what you're saying. That's number one. The other thing is if you're talking about, for instance, a situation that you're making a point that you have to expound upon with maybe 2 or 3 pages, well, you don't do it inside the paper. You put the conclusion in and then refer, see memorandum on whatever that situation is attached. This way it keeps the case nice and clean because sometimes what happens, you get so much stuff inside the case, you can end up with 60, 70, 80 pages. Who knows what you end up with. And my goodness, these people are lazy to begin with. They usually have their clerks do it, and that's problematic too for numerous reasons. And then things get lost and confused, and it can get really combobulated. So you want to keep it nice and clean. But what you will find is lawyers love to throw all kinds of crap into the case for that very purpose, to just pollute the case. Matter of fact, I had a lawyer in a case that I'm working on. And it is this lawyer came in with all of this stuff, and I demanded that this guy be sanctioned. And I laid out every lie he put into that paper, and I showed the truth and laid out the lie, truth and laid out the lie, and went through the whole thing, lots of them. He just threw all kinds of crap into the case. And again, they're just trying to pollute the case. They're trying to make it confusing and doing all these things. Now, he responded back, trying to, get back and saying that he shouldn't be sanctioned. And, I mean, he doesn't have a case at all, and the judge needs to sanction him. And I'll tell you, if the judge doesn't sanction him, depending on where we go with this case, I might sue the judge, too.
Yeah.
I had one success suing a judge, and I filed a default system on the judge, and I'm waiting for that to finish through the process.
Yeah,
but we'll see where that goes. Who knows what's going to happen with that, though?
Yeah. Well, I think we should all be excited about this Federal Continuity Directive 1 that came out, and Federal Directive Continuity 2 that is putting the military a little more power here. So we'll see what happens. But that I was going to say, I just don't know what to do with the kidnapping part of it. But if I can, for the layman's term for this conversation, if I can knock the 3 judges off the bench, so to speak, and get rid of the case, then everything with it is going with it. So that's kind of what I want to do, at least, just get rid of the case.
Trying to get rid of the case for denial of due process becomes a federal case. That's number one. Number 2, once you move it into federal court for cause, you can't talk about the case at all. It's only the fact that they're not giving you due process, and you have to express how it is that they're not giving you due process. One of the problems is going to be that these judges on the federal level don't want to get involved with family court or these different courts. For instance, you're in a divorce court, which is part of the family court system. And that's number 1. And they really don't want to get involved in a lot of these things. But again, they're more apt to deal with you if you're in a state court. I would try to move all things into the major discussions. I'd move into the state court, and you demand a trial by jury, and you want the point that you want to untaint the jury, and then you want to add in, a jury handbook. We've written a jury handbook in PDF form. You could take that and attach it as something you refer to, and if the lawyer on the other side is brain dead, and most of them are, they may not even pick that up. And if it gets through and they don't challenge it because they like to get rid of evidence, they like to say, you can't bring this up, you can't bring that up. Well, if you can get through the process, the written process, and then you're moving into the trial process, now you have the opportunity to take that jury and make them free and independent. They're going to stop you at any level they can, and the judge is going to slam his hammer and say, you can't talk about that. And, it's going to be an argument and a fight with the judge because you want to free that jury. Okay?
Right.
And we wrote in the handbook, we wrote how they, particularly in federal courts, but, I can't cover all the state courts, so I didn't. But generally, when you work off the federal, you can see what's going on in the state courts. Every time they do these questionnaires, they're preparing the stacking of the juries is what they're doing. Do you have a weapon? How many weapons do you have? Anybody in your house have a weapon? Have you ever had a weapon? What news do you watch? Do you watch CNN or do you watch Fox? They ask you all these questions, okay? Yep. All these questions that they have no business asking, number one. And what they're doing is preparing for the stacking of the jury. Because whether that individual is going to sit on that case, or they'll put those people in this case or that case or the case that's appropriate for what the end results is. So it's a problem. But
I think I'm thinking actually about sending one of those writs right to the attorney herself and put her really in a bad position.
Well, again, I don't know. You'd have to find a way to couch it correctly. So
yeah.
All right, we're going to move. Well, actually, person in the queue. Anybody else wants to get into the queue? There's no one else there. If you're on a phone, star 6 and a 1, and if you're on an app or browser, there should be a button there somewhere to get into the queue. Meanwhile, Jim, I guess we'll talk some more. Nobody else here.
Yeah.
So if you have anything else?
Well, it's just this whole thing has been a big mess, and there's a bigger issue behind it. I can't get into it right now, but the problem is with the bigger issues. I'm not that the police are bad people, but we're dealing with policy officers that are dealing with the courts, and we're dealing with I'll just use CPS for an example, and they have no authority, and then they're going to get their hands into all this stuff. Really, what needs to happen in the end of the day is the kids need to come with me, and the rights really should be stripped from my ex-wife. And there's a bigger issue.
They've given the children to the wife custody.
It's joint custody, but this was the push for her to have the final authority. They've given her everything. I've gone in this court multiple times. I said, you guys are kidnapping my kids. You're not telling me where they are. And I actually stood up one day and said, I'll figure it out another way. And my thought process was to just go right to the National Guard base and say, hey, these people are kidnapping my kids. The police completely ignored me. When this all went on, I called them up and I said, I'm missing my kids. My family's been missing for 24 hours. And I had two sergeants on the phone. They're both saying, well, no, they're not missing. Just go deal with the courts. I go, how am I going to deal with the courts if I don't even know where they are? So that's another issue. I have a bigger issue with that. These are human rights abuse,
Government's got their hands into everything, and they control us. So people don't realize how people who have never been in the courts and have no experience concerning the courts, they have no clue on how controlled and that they are a slave that they are. So.
Well, that executive order that Trump wrote is all against human trafficking, in all different angles. So these people are all violating federal law. They're violating that executive order.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the details of prosecution of it is, but it's pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
That when
we did just get someone back into the queue now, so
okay.
We'll wrap it up and we'll move on.
All right, good chatting. Good talking with you guys.
All right, Jim. Yeah, good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye now.
Okay. Thank you. Bye, Jim. Okay, we're going to take our next caller. It looks like Greg. What state are you from, Greg? Is that your first name, Greg?
Hi, John. Greg from Wyoming.
Wyoming. Yep.
Just looking for an update on what your Committee of Safety is doing in your county and how many counties are operating at the moment.
All right. Well, if you go to the website on the front page, let me get to the front page. It's really on just about every page. There's a few pages it may not be on, but generally speaking, it's on every page. On the right side, I know if you're viewing this, are you using an app on a phone or no?
I'm traveling on the phone at the moment. Yes.
Okay. Well, on the right-hand side of the website, if you scroll down a little bit, well, it's quite a bit anyway, you'll start to see some statistics on NLA. I'm scrolling down right now, and I'll start reading some of them off as soon as I get to it. Okay, here it is. Counties constituted, 3,133 counties. That's every county in the nation. Total members, 11,755. Okay, we have organized. Here's total county committee of safety organizers. We have 201 counties in process. Now, I don't know what state. Everybody's at different points, you know. We got one here in Dutchess County. We're about 2 months old right now and working through the process trying to grow.
Okay. I guess to clarify my question a little bit more for you, John, have any of them actually removed judges and seated their own grand juries and seated their own?
Well, to my knowledge, no. Number one, education is a key. It's hard. We got a lot of people doing what they're doing, joining in. They see something here, and then they start winging it. And if they don't share the educational part of things with the people that are coming into the membership, it hurts the Committee of Safety, because you can't have a good Committee of Safety without a proper education. And unfortunately, people are somewhat lazy on that. Now,
that's very vital there, correct.
I wrote a book called Government by Consent. I suggest anybody in a Committee of Safety should buy it, but definitely we've got to get one to our sheriffs. But, you know, Government by Consent, this is the key. People have no clue on how to have government by consent. None, zero, zip. Okay? I'm sure there's someone somewhere, but I have not seen them yet. Okay, we teach that government by consent, and that is the key. We even have one of our courses called Government by Consent. But the real education on that is the book, Government by Consent. It's 550 pages.
I have one, John, and I'm working my way through it, and I actually want to order 4 more and distribute them to our sheriff and our mayor and a couple of my friends.
This is what people at a Committee of Safety should have. That'll give them their real serious education, because it covers quite a bit. Now, on top of that, the question becomes, well, how do you create a Committee of Safety? Well, again, you know, underneath Start a Committee of Safety, we have handbooks, videos, and tools. And so anybody who belongs to the Committee of Safety, that's one of the things we're going through right now with our committee, is really pushing hard that anybody that comes in, that they visit that page, watch all the videos. Most of them are pretty short, but it really gives a good picture of the Committees of Safety. And then we have handbooks, you know, how to organize the Committee of Safety. We have a copy of resolution and the charter, which is a framework. And, you know, we've just adopted it exactly the way it is, and as time goes on, we'll add some things to it. So that's those are 2 important things. But you want to have the Committee of Safety Committeeman Handbook and the Committee of Safety Organizing Handbook. Those are 2 important handbooks, because that lays out the process. Our founding fathers, and this is where we learned it from, we learned from other people, and then we discovered our founding fathers. This is what our founding fathers did. They had committees of safety. Paul Revere was on the Committee of Safety, and he was on the Communications Committee ultimately. All 13 colonies had committees of safety going. And it was the committees of safety that they chose their best individuals to send up in order to come together to create ultimately the Constitution, you know. You know, so representatives were sent in to those things. There was the Committee of Safety who pulled the first Continental Congress together. There was the Committee of Safety who pulled the Second Continental Congress together. There was the Committee of Safety who pressed forward the Declaration of Independence. There was the Committee of Safety that pulled together and made the debates on the Constitution through the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers. It's the Committees of Safety that executed the government at the time when it became what it was, the first government of the United States. It was the Committee of Safety that controlled all of the individuals, and that was robbed from us. There's the committeeman process, which is done by party members. You have the Republican and Democrats and other parties. They all have their own committeeman process, and they walk the papers to put people onto the ballot. But those are rogue committees of safety. They're unlawful. They removed the laws that made them unlawful. Okay, there was a law that did not allow a organization to process the committeeman process like this. They statutarized it, and what that did is it gave power to the party rules, and the rules became like law, not almost like law. They became law. And ultimately, they set a facade up, making it look like you're an elected committeeman. They reduced the numbers to a limit of 2 per county, so 1 per county, depending on where you're at, what state, I guess. And so they have total control over the individuals. They can throw you out if they don't like what you have to say. It's really, they've destroyed the whole thing. We're looking to get to the real committeeman. We're looking to get to the real Committee of Safety. They're not a Committee of Safety. We just don't deal with political process. We deal with the judicial process. We take people out of office and put people in office, at least the powers and the authorities that we have to do that. But you don't really get these powers and authorities until you start, until you start to get other counties working together with you. The goal really is to get every, if not every, at least almost every county in your state to establish a Committee of Safety and start working county to county, especially where the political lines separate. Maybe you have, for instance, these particular counties or a piece of this county has this representative, a particular congressman in office, and then you got to work together with them. You got to walk the papers. You got to get them into office. You got to walk the papers. You got to get them out of office. The powers and the authority. People have no clue, none, zero, on what government by consent is and the power and authority that they have. But we have to have the numbers, and we don't need a lot of numbers. We have government not by the majority. We have government by the majority that participates. And that we don't need many, many millions of people. We need just a handful, ultimately. I think we figured it out to be something like 150,000 across the nation. Let me run a number real quick. Let's see, we got 3,134 or 33, I'll call it, counties. And let's say we have 40 people in a Committee of Safety, which we should have more than that as time goes on. So that's 125,000 people. So 160,000 people across the nation to take this whole nation back. Because right now we are governed, the whole process is governed and controlled by a small handful of people. 4 to 5 people control an entire county. And those counties are controlled by 4 or 5 people on the state level. And those state levels across all 50 states is controlled by a small group of people, maybe a dozen people on the national level. And that's that whole structure, and it comes down telling who's going to get in office, who you're going to walk papers for. Everything's already predetermined. And then they play a game with you. We'll take a vote on that. And I've been in many votes on the committeeman, not many, but a few. And as the committeeman, they start to collect, and they go in the back room. Oh, continue the meeting. We're going to go in the back room here, and we're just going to count the votes. Well, you know how that works out. Or if they count them in public, all of a sudden you got someone that comes in that's carrying a whole bunch of votes from people who aren't there, which is unlawful in any committee. The whole thing is corrupt.
I agree. Okay. Well, I will add those other pamphlets starting the Committee of Safety to my order when I get your other books, and we'll keep plugging along. Yeah, getting that many members for the nationally through all the counties, isn't that big of a task. It's very doable, John.
Oh, yeah, it is doable, but again, the people that are doing it, one of the things we need to do is we need to go professional. And the reason why we need to go professional is because we have to spend time contacting these individuals on the Committee of Safety levels in all these counties and start communicating with them, getting them connected with us, making sure they're getting the proper education. And if they have a leader that's just shutting us out, and we've had that, You know, we've had that. We've had it down in Florida, where the leader just shuts everything out, and these people that are joining the committees of safety have no clue on National Liberty Alliance. They don't know the education we provide. They don't know the books that we've written. They don't know the law course that we gave. They don't know the research of everything we've done, 15, 20 years of research on this stuff to put it together. And let's say not 20 years, but 15 plus. And so they you know, this happens. You know, people kind of wing it on themselves. They try to reinvent the wheel and make something that it isn't. And then some people will come with an agenda, and they're not coming with a sense of honor, justice, and mercy, which is what we teach. We have to come with a sense of honor, justice, and mercy. Otherwise, we're just as bad as they are. You know, the other side that we're trying to go up against. So, you know, we need to go professional to do that. And so we need someone with very deep pockets that can fund that particular, you know, fund us to be able to do that. We also, you know, we've got a couple of authors that would like to come together and take our books and that we've written on law, common law particularly, of course, and also government by consent and how the, you know, the Constitution, how the structure works, you know, everything. We need to be teaching our children. We need to write a proper education, which would be textbooks for children from K through 12. We need to educate them properly, and in order to do that, we need funding, you know. And again, so we're looking for a couple of $1 million. I don't expect to get that from the membership. We could get that from the membership if everyone that became a member of National Liberty Alliance gave $5 a month or more. We definitely would have more than enough money to go professional. And we'd be able to pay people who are working 40 hours a week to do the job that has to be done, and they'd be held accountable. If they don't do the work, we remove them and get someone else to fill that spot. It's that simple. But as volunteers, you know, either they're going to do the work or they don't, and you can only push so hard. And, you know, we just don't have the connection that we should have.
Yeah. So one other question. I'm sure you gave one of your books to Trump during his first term. Is he on?
No, not to his first term, because I hadn't written any books at that point, I don't think. Let me think. Yeah, my first book, I think, was 2022 or 23. I don't remember. So, but I didn't get him one then. I've gotten books out to government by consent to Trump. I'm going to send him another one. I sent him a paperback, but I'm going to send him another one again when I send it out to these 45 people around Trump. And I'm also going to send him the book Memorandums of Law. And, you know, that's really a book that just focuses in on the problems and defines the problems here we have and what has to be fixed and how we can fix it. And so that's Memorandums of Law. Let's see what it's actually, I forget, it's common law and Memorandums of Law. So it's Memorandums of Common Law. That's what I named it. And, you know, I'm sending them all pocket constitutions. I got to believe they have that, you know, but maybe not those, I don't know. So, but yeah, and a copy of the paper we're going to be filing concerning the Rules Enabling Act with the United States Supreme Court, demanding that this be overturned and take it. Stop making rules. You don't have the power or the authority to do that. They abrogated the common law thereby. Anyway, you got a final thing, because we do have another person in the queue.
One other final thing. Are we reaching the younger generations, the 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds?
Well, therein is the problem. We need the people to do that. I mean, you know, we're only a couple of people, and you know, I'm limited to what I can do, and it's up to the people to get to other people. It's up to the people to share what we're doing here and tell people about our Monday night meeting. It's up to people to tell them about the books and about all the courses we have and the law course we give, and that we're teaching the common law and how people can have government by consent and so on and so forth. And the papers that we filed, to get them out there, get them to, you know, other podcasters, get them to individuals that you think it's important for them to have, and get books to your sheriff. You know, this is the things, and we have a process on how we can force the sheriff to read the book, okay, which is written up right there in the handbook on organizing a committee of safety within your county. And the key thing is really visiting the sheriff for the first time, giving him a copy of your resolution and your charter, which really should be in a really impressive, put together impressively with seals and everything, and a copy of the book, Government by Consent, and a copy of the Constitution, and maybe a couple of handbooks for the sheriff's handbook we wrote particularly for the sheriff. A couple of copies of that so you can give them to the leadership. But the key thing is your first visit is only 5 or 10 minutes with the sheriff, introducing yourself, letting them know who you are. And we'd like you to go through the literature here, go through our charter, see what's going on. We'd like to have some further conversation with you, and we'll contact you in, 6 to 8 weeks and get together with the Committee of Safety. And, you may have more questions for us. We have questions for you. So the intent is, of course, in reading the charter. Once he reads the charter, he's going to force him to read the resolutions. Once he reads the charter and the resolutions, he's going to feel a need to read the government by consent. After all, we're going to be talking to him, you see. So you have to put him you have to lay this out in a position. It's not that all these sheriffs are bad, and a lot of them are bad or they appear to be bad. The problem is they're not educated. They don't understand their powers and authorities. They don't know the difference between law and equity. They don't understand what's going on. But the government by consent book, the common law handbook for the sheriff, will enlighten them and empower them in a way that they'd never even dreamed. But that's the only way we can wake up sheriffs. Because just sending a sheriff a book is not necessarily going to do it. We did that to a lot of sheriffs, and I haven't seen a big result from that. No, we have to force them to do it because we lay it out, give them all the paperwork, give them the book, and say, we're going to be talking to you in 6 weeks. We've got a lot of questions, and we'd like to talk to you about law and all these things and your authorities and powers. And we're looking for your support, and we'd like to hear from you, the thoughts, if you think we got something that we should consider changing, tell us about it. But they're going to have to look to see what's going on.
Okay, well, we will proceed that way also.
Okay. All right. Appreciate the call.
God bless. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, we're going to take our next caller, who may end up being the last. Let's see. It is someone from Las Vegas, Nevada. What's your first name? You got the mic. 702 area code.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. What's your first name? We can
I'm
hear
sorry.
you.
This is Dan. I'm a Washingtonian.
Okay.
And,
okay.
I've with the Vegas number, but I won't get into that. It's math.
Okay.
I've taken the course, and I've been on this process for a couple of years now. Thank God. I honestly believe this whole thing has been divided to me. But for David, the guy that called in a couple of callers ago, just very quickly, it's my experience that each district court has a legal help call-in line where lawyers will help answer questions. And it's been very helpful in my case. I've called them probably 5 or 6 times. And one lawyer said, you're crazy what you're doing. But I just called back and got a different lawyer, and they have been very enlightening, delightful, I guess. So
well,
that's
the other thing I don't know if you know about, people don't know about this, is that there are handbooks that the courts, I didn't know this,
yes.
I recently found out maybe a year or so ago, that they actually have a handbook that lays a lot of things out, how the court system works and the structure and everything else. So you can ask for that, so each specific court has its own information.
I completely agree, and sad to say that ADHD is not very conducive to reading, so anything that I can, and I'm coming up on 60 pretty quickly, and that bleeds into another question, but just very quickly, if you wouldn't mind, you said complaint, people write complaint and that's wrong. It's complaint versus what, please, John?
Well, no, it's an action, not a complaint.
Okay, it's action. That's the word I was looking for.
I've had people. I had a case recently where they tried to turn that word action into a complaint. They actually crossed it out, and they actually whited it out and put back the word action again after I threatened them, because they don't have the power, the authority to do that, and they're going to get sued. They knew what they were doing. They thought that we didn't understand what we were doing.
Well, people are getting to learn all kinds of stuff right now. So next question, I recently had a federal court case dismissed. I'm stupid enough to think, well, God's given you another bite at the apple, dude. Do it better. Fail once, try once, fail, try twice, fail better. So I'm in the process of fighting more.
Nothing better than the school of hard knocks. Absolutely. I've been knocked down a lot of times and made a lot of mistakes, and you pay for those mistakes to some degree, of course, but you also learn from those mistakes. But go ahead.
Thank you, John. Next, so that brings up, can you give an opinion on whether you're suing somebody? Now, mine happens to be a diversity of citizenship, because I have.
What? I missed.
That's my case or cases will be diversity of citizenship cases in the federal court, because I'm a Washingtonian. I've gone through that process, et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
maybe
give us an explanation of diversity of citizenship.
Oh, I'm in the courts with against the Arizona Mafia. God bless them.
Okay. But are you trying? I don't understand what you mean. Are you trying to claim you're not a citizen?
No. I haven't renounced citizenship. I have changed my standing to a state citizenship. I'm a Washingtonian. Is my nationality.
There's really, I understand what you're saying, and I'm a New York State citizen, but I'm a New York State citizen just because I planted my feet here and in my house, and I'm living here. I mean, tomorrow I can cross the state line into Jersey and live there, and immediately I'm a citizen of New Jersey. So it's an automatic. The citizenship ultimately is a citizen of the United States, okay? And whatever state you go into, you have the powers and the authorities of the citizen of any other state. And of course, everything's supposed to be in harmony, which it isn't. Okay, so some states you can carry a weapon without a permit, in most states you can't. Okay, and you'll get arrested if you try to do it. In a lot of these states claiming, well, I come from that state, and you got to honor that, and so on. But they don't, and they won't. But in any event, citizen, the word citizen, just for people to realize, is used, I believe, 7 times in the Constitution. Founding fathers found no problem with that, but they made it a dirty word by making it something else and playing a game, which I think you understand because you're permitting yourself to be a citizen. But go ahead.
I understand that. I guess the crux of the question is, when we're going against these people, what is your opinion on official capacity or private capacity? Because the reason I ask is when I called the federal court legal helpline, they said, you want to go after the DA in his official capacity, the clerk of the board of supervisors in their official capacity, but you go after the sheriff in his private capacity. Now, it just so happens
you can go after anybody in their private capacity, and I never go after anybody in their official capacity. Once they step outside of their official capacity, they are now to be sued privately. The suit as an
Fair enough. Second to last question, as far as AI for us old people, do you have, and some of the AI that I've looked up as far as legal stuff, one of them that's recommended is called Lawfly. Well, that's out of Belgium and London. So I asked for US. But in your opinion, do you have any experience with an AI? Because sometimes you have to ask 2 or 3 questions and give it more information to get the real constitutional answer. But do you have any experience, or do you suggest AI at all?
Well, I don't use AI. I get solicited by AI many times. I just hit the X or exit out. I don't bother. I'm not allowing AI to come into my computer. Not to say that it hasn't gotten in there anyway on its own, because these people are evil. AI will be the destruction of this world. People have no clue on what they're doing with this AI. There's a lot of great things about AI that say, oh, this is great, and it could do this, it could do that, and the other thing, but you better look at the negative side because it's destroying the minds of the people. I hear these, for instance, Musk talking about how many millions of robots are going to be around in the next 3-4 years, and it's going to be like a normal thing. Children will probably get robots, their own personal robots. Children, and just using AI, first of all, look, I'm an author, okay? You're going to have books written by AI instead of people. That's what's going to happen. It's going to flood the entire market, and the problems will get deeper and deeper. Children, they can't. People that come out of college, they don't know how to read a clock. A clock, a round clock, numbers that they have no clue. They don't know how to read a map. Okay, there's a lot of things they can't do that they've lost. Think about what they're going to lose when AI does everything. You don't have to think no more. You just have to ask, hey, what should I do? What do you think? Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, that's what I'll do. We're going to become mindless. And I'll tell you what, maybe we're creating hell for ourselves, that God has intentions to cast us into it. We'll create our own hell, because a world run by AI will be hell. And we're heading for that very, very quickly. It's going to be the destruction of mankind. Even these cell phones, as great as they are, okay, and especially if you're in business and stuff, these smartphones are great. But I shouldn't be giving. I wouldn't give them to my young children. They have to be old enough to be able to deal with a phone. None of my children went to school anyway; they were homeschooled. But the thing is that. You give these phones, they destroy each other with this stuff. You listen to these. Parents should step aside and start listening to the conversations these children have online. They're all day long in their rooms playing on these stupid games. Go in there and listen. Sit in outside the door and listen to what they're saying, and you will be totally appalled. Okay? Or you just blacked it out. Or maybe you're lost too. I don't know. But the bottom line, it's going to destroy mankind.
I'm with you. I'm as lost as last year's Easter eggs on a lot of things. However, and this is very quickly, I'm not being argumentative at all, John. I really appreciate all the info over the last couple of years. But because a novice like me kind of has to rely, because where else are you going to go, YouTube, to see what the next step is? Hey, your federal case is dismissed. What are my options next?
Well, you don't need AI.
But I also can't read very well. It's not I can't read, it's I can't sit and read.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
No, I understand that. I have the same problem. I'm a very slow reader, okay? If I try to read through fast, I don't get anything. And I just have to read very slow. I take my time. I make notes. I do keywords, and that's how I learn and go through the whole process. I'm a very slow reader. But being a slow reader, sometimes I have to go back and read a sentence all over again because I'm not sure what I even read. But the thing is that's how you embed it into your brain. Okay? And if you keep embedding things into your brain that way, okay, after a while, it just kind of falls out of your mouth, and you just speak it, articulate it, because it's you ingrain it.
I'm sorry.
Again.
I got about 1 minute left, so this is second to last question. I said that before.
Okay.
Government by consent on Audible. Is that a possibility? Can I send $100 somewhere, John? How can we make that happen?
Government by consent is in audio, I believe.
Audible, or whatever kind of, just somewhere where, hey, a road trip.
Yeah, you want
can listen to government by consent.
Read, yes, you could. I believe. I'm pretty sure I set it up that you can, if you go, for instance, here, let me find out. Hang on a second.
I think I've looked for it on Audible itself, but okay.
Yeah, go to our welcome page, come to the books by John Darash, and then let's go to government by consent. Okay, government by consent, let's click on that. I believe it's in audio also, or maybe there was a reason I couldn't. There was a couple of books I couldn't put into audio for some reason, and I just haven't had time to go figure that out yet. I think you can find it. I think it's on here in audio.
Okay.
If you're looking for that, because I appreciate that too. I listen to the Bible, the whole Bible on, in electronic form, And when I'm driving, I'm usually listening to one of the books of the Bible, or and I also have a lot of good music that I listen to, Christian music and other good music too. But I'm pretty sure it's an audio. I'm pretty sure.
I'll look for it. If I can't find it, John, I'll try and get some information on how to get it on Audible, because that's such a big platform, and I'll pass it along. The last question is, because I've been trying to pay attention over the last 7 years, devolution, trust the plan, etc. Is it possible, or am I the only crazy person that thinks all of these defeats that we, the people, are running into are trial by fire, something apprentice? You know what I mean?
It's all done for exposure mostly. Remember that. At least what's done on the Trump level, it's all done because he could bypass a lot of this stuff, and I'm sure he knows that, and his lawyers. Mm-hmm. But they're letting it play out because the people have to see. That's number one, okay?
And we have to fail because these guys might go away, and who's going to step into that position? These criminals are someday leaving, God willing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they're going to be leaving.
Who's going to step into their positions for, as you say, court administrators, etc.?
I think a lot of these people are going to leave by the end of the rope or jail. I mean, that's how they're going to leave. I do believe that. There's no doubt in my mind. Okay, President Trump is a peacemaker, and he's bringing peace to the world. Not just here, he's bringing peace to the world. He's trying to bring back a connection, to have relationships with other nations and get rid of war and all this stuff. And it can be accomplished. I don't know of anybody that is qualified to do that except Trump. I'm sure there might be somebody else out there, but I haven't seen them. And it'd be far and in between because of the experiences that Trump has had, his abilities.
He doesn't seem to like lawyers very much.
Well, maybe maybe that tells us something,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But look at, Isaiah 14, if you go in and read that and you find the proper interpretation by looking at it line upon line, precept upon precept, you'll discover that before the Lord comes, man's going to say peace and safety at last. So, and, the last judgment inside this world is the judgment of nations, and that's what's going on right now. The Leviathan is being judged.
I appreciate your time, John. I know the call is out of time, but if anybody's going through it and you take a hit, you get something dismissed, do not give up. You can call me. I'm the Committee of Safety organizer for Mojave County in Arizona. At very least, I'll give you encouragement. But thank you all very much. Thank you, John, and God bless you.
All right, just before we close up, if you go to our directory and you click on the directory, if you want to find your committee of safety, if there's one in your county, or to create a committee of safety, once you come to the directory, you can come down here and check out your state. For instance, I'll look at New York because that's where I'm at, okay? And it'll tell me a lot of information in New York. We have 744 members in New York. We have 62 counties in New York. Of those 62 counties, we have committees of safety being organized in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 counties at this point in time. I know our county is going to be pushing about 2 or 3 counties around us once we get a little more organized and educated in what we're doing. Because it's important to get the counties next door, to get people to come from the counties next door into your committee of safety for a few meetings and to let them learn and tell them, hey, we'll help you create a committee of safety in your county too. And we'll teach you the things that we've learned and so on and so forth. And they'll do the same. And if you work on 3 or 4 counties around you and they work on 3 or 4 counties around them, you get the picture. Okay, in a period of time, you'll get committees of safety in the counties throughout, the state. But it does take really endurance. You have to endure. You have to push. You have to do. You have to learn. You have to be educated. If the people expect to be ignorant and free, forget about it. It's just not going to happen. So, and that was Jefferson, of course. I kind of added my own taste to it. But with that, we're going to end our program for the night. Thanks, everyone, for coming. And Lord willing, we'll see you next Monday. Good night.
Thank you, John.